The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Good evening, and welcome to the November episode of For the Love of Words. This evening, our featured poet is Rama K. Ramaswamy. Rama is an author, educator, journalist, and scientist. She currently is the president of the World of Wellesley, and the website address for that World of Wellesley will be showing on the screen either during this interview or later in the program. A social justice nonprofit organization. Rama has a background in geology, biology, and English literature. Her PhD work focused on the biogeology of extremophiles, funded by the U.S. Geological Survey. Over the past 3 decades, her articles and poems have appeared in local and national newspapers, journals, and magazines. She is the producer of Chatting It Up with Rama at Wellesley Media Corporation and on YouTube. Her collection of poetry, Coming Full Circle, is available online and at Amazon.com. All proceeds from the sale of that book go toward breast cancer research. She's working on her next collection of poetry, which is set for publication in 2025. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me, John.
I usually start with a question, what brought you to poetry? But I think I'm going to start with you. What brought you to writing poetry?
So that's an interesting question. I think that basically I've always enjoyed writing. So ever since I was very young and in school, writing or journaling was just something I did on the side that just gave me comfort. And I actually, a lot of kids had a sticker collection or coin and stamps collections, and mine was collecting quotes. So it was just something, it was weird, but I kind of just enjoyed it, and so started there. Okay.
Your website, which we didn't mention in the introduction, but it's rkr-ink.com, has a saying that's all in capital letters: empowered women empower women. Individually, one drop; together, an ocean. Could you expand upon that thought?
Sure. It's interesting. My mother was or is a retired professor of literature, and she's a very impressive academic. One of the things she always said to me growing up was, by the time you grow up, women are going to be, all women are going to unite and be best friends with each other. And so that was, I think that was, something that she had always hoped would happen in her lifetime. She was convinced that by the time I reached into adulthood, that would be the reality. So that's something that always kind of stayed with me. So I was always that person who had a lot of friends who were women, and I would seek out people, and I would be very supportive because they were women. And that also translates into being non-judgmental of fellow women, so things of that nature. Eventually, I went into science, and I realized that women are a minority, and so that furthered my sort of subconscious or quest to support fellow women. So that's something that's been a theme that's been important.
Okay.
And continues to be important.
I'm sure. Several years ago, during an interview, you were asked, when did you first consider yourself a writer? And part of your answer was, quote, "To be called a writer sounds very accomplished, very professional," close quotes. And you went on to say that you didn't consider yourself quite there yet. Has that opinion changed since you did that interview?
Well, that's a good question. I think for me, it's really the key word is becoming. It's more about the process than the result. So I think it's one of those lifelong sort of quests of becoming. right? So
something that you never really fully achieve? Is that...
I don't even know if it should be considered an achievement as such, but it's just a process of being who you are, if that's important to you. So I don't know if I'll get to 102 years old and I'll say I am now a writer, but.
Well, would it be fair to say that your first book of poetry, Coming Full Circle, contains poems that reflect observations about your life, things that you've observed in the life of others, as well as in the world we live in? Would that be a fair assessment, generally speaking,
Sure.
of the poems in
Yeah.
that book? I'd like to get your reaction to speaking of collecting quotes, I'd like to get your reaction to a quote that the late Canadian poet and novelist Leonard Cohen once said. He maintained that poetry is a verdict, and he explained that whether or not one is a poet is a verdict meant to be rendered by the listener or the reader and not by the writer. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that?
So love Leonard Cohen, love his work, love him as a person. I think it's an excellent sort of observational statement. I'm also a big fan of French essayist and philosopher Roland Barthes. And you know, he was actually a proficient specialist in grammar. Why, I can't imagine, but nonetheless, a brilliant philosopher and writer. And he had a similar theory where he said, you know, once a writer or a poet releases a work, it's no longer theirs. And he called it the death of the author theory, where he said it now belongs to the reader. And it's no longer the writer's job to be talking ad nauseum about it. And that's a philosophy that I've really adhered to. So you'll rarely find me explaining my work to other people.
Okay.
But rather, I'd like to hear what the listeners think of it, or what their takeaways were.
Okay. In your first book of poetry, Coming Full Circle, the poetry is short, crisp, and to the point. Is that form or style of writing a result of your years of scientific training, or simply the way you write, or perhaps both?
Well, I'd love to make that connection and say, you know, there's a definite, you know, cause and correlation there. But I think that, well, yes, I have, you know, trained as a scientist, and that is, you know, my one of my identities. But I think I just prefer shorter poetry. It may have been because I've been forced to read lots of run-on poetry. And although I do admire Keats and Byron, you know, some of their, you know, pages and pages and pages
right.
of poems were really, you know, tough to get through sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think also in the modern world, you know, I think, you know, there's just a lot of ADHD in general. You know, and I don't mean that with any sort of disrespect in any way. I think that just, you know, people's attention span in general is shorter and shorter. And I just, you know, for me, I want to read something that's short, crisp, and gets to the point. And it's also a good summary of all the thoughts that person is thinking. You know, and putting it in there, it's kind of almost like an abstract for a science publication. You know, instead of reading the entire, you know, procedure, the methodology, and the discussion, you just have it all there in the abstract.
Right, right. Well, when I was in college, I had a professor who was my mentor in poetry, the American poet John Matthias, and he has written many books, poetry books, many long poems. And I once went up to him years later when I met him on campus again and handed him one of those long poetry books and asked him to sign it for me. And I told him that I tried very hard to read this all beforehand, and I find it very difficult to get through long poems, even his.
Right.
And so he said to me, okay. And he then wrote something. He wrote his name in the book, but above his name, he wrote the word patience.
Right.
So that's what I take away from every time I look at a long poem. I think of that word,
well,
patience.
That's just what I was thinking too. I was thinking that I have nothing against long poems. I think they're fantastic, and you know, people should completely feel free to write them. And it's you know, all forms of writing. Everything is a story at the end of the day, and it's worth being told. and everyone should feel validated to write what they want to write. I just lack the patience, I think,
Yeah,
to get through page 26
I can relate
of one
that.
poem. So
I can relate to that. Also, in regards to your poetry, there's another, when I was doing my research about your background, these couple of quotes from one I've already given you. There's another one that Leonard Cohen said, and when I was reading about your background, this quote of his came to mind, and that is, he was once asked if his poetry was autobiographical, and he said it would be fair to say that, but that among the things that autobiography includes is the imagination, as everyone's imagination has a history of its own, just as every individual has his or her history. Do you feel that that applies to your poetry as well? It's autobiographical, but also with an application of imagination?
Sure. I think each individual, I think we all have our imaginations, right? I mean, that's, in a sense, that is who we are. It's a mix of our experiences and what we imagine. For me personally, I'm also a bit of a story collector. So it's my work is sort of reflective of an amalgam of things that I've been through, but also all the stories of other people and all the experiences that I've had and other people that I've come across meeting have had. Mm-hmm. So it could go anywhere. It's a lot of possibilities.
Are there any projects that you have currently going? I know we said in the introduction, right, your new collection of poetry is coming out 2025. Right. Do you have any other projects that you're working on at the moment?
So that book has taken a really long time as my second book, and I'm almost done with it. But it takes the time it takes. So there's quite a few years of separation between the first and the projected release of the second book. But so I am trying to finish that. I'm also working on a collection of short stories, fiction. That's in the works.
Do you have working titles for either of those?
I do have a working title for the next book of poetry. It's going to be called Carenzia.
Okay. Can you explain to me and the audience what that word means?
Not very well today, but I'm still working on how exactly to explain it. So there isn't really a literal English translation for the word. It comes from the Latin querer, and it's a Spanish term. But it's a really interesting concept, and it's used very frequently in the arena of bullfighting. But it's essentially a paradoxical and contradictory term, because it's in reference to the bull in the arena once released, trying its best to find a sort of sweet spot, or a spot in the arena where it feels at its most powerful. And it's a matador's job to do anything he can to keep the bull from reaching that spot, because if that bull hits that spot, he's essentially in for a good goring. So it's the spot in the arena where the bull has nothing left to lose and is at the height of his power.
So is that a clue as to what the thematic spread of your poetry might be?
Absolutely, and I think it's also slightly contradictory, because how for human beings, how do we get to a place where we feel we have nothing left to lose, and it's essentially a place of danger, but then also feel fully self-actualized and fully yourself in that place at that moment, and then what is our reaction? What do we do at that point or afterwards? And the other sort of lead into that word or that term is a sort of a yearning or a longing for a sort of a nostalgic home, or a place of belonging, and that's also related to that sweet spot. So it's a complex and multi-layered sort of concept.
And are the poems, or some of the poems you'll be reading tonight, reflective of that?
Yes. So I have all the poems that I'll be reading tonight are originals that will most likely go into that new collection. And I have one poem from my previous book, so that I'm bringing back, because it is the fall, and it's about the fall.
Well, we look forward to hearing you. Thank you again for coming in tonight.
Well, thank you. So the first poem I'm reading tonight is from my first book, Coming Full Circle, and this one is called Leaf Fall. Sighing in the long autumn wind, a single sun-mottled leaf dreams psychedelic enough to unwind, dares a takeoff from trees' mothering grief. Oh, the splendorous possibilities it signified in its pause, shimmer, suspension, and fall. A gyrating go-between for a cause dignified, a mystic conjuring a sign beyond recall. Leaves fall, snakes, lizards, frogs molt. While we all accumulate crusty, cursed barnacles, it's hard to tell in our human cult where, when soul transforms into toothed manacles. And then I'll move on to my next poem, which is an original, and we'll go into my second book coming up called Carenzia. And this one is called A Love Poem for Time. Once upon a time, before time knew its name, there was a kingdom where mirrors held their tails and glass slippers shattered on cobblestones. It's only logical. You are the whisper before dawn, before voices stir, before the last sigh of a spell cast long ago, and the first breath of a girl who did not wait. You're the hour when pumpkins stayed pumpkins, and the gowns remained closeted, while the prince danced alone in a ballroom of regrets. You are neither the fairest nor the most forgotten. You are the echo of steps not taken, the pause between a wish and its undoing. Sometimes you surprise me with your untamed forests, where wolves learn to speak in the language of flowers, and girls in red capes always choose paths wanting where. But mostly, you're the minute they cut Rapunzel's hair and the tower began crumbling in. I feel for you, dear time, you who are neither beginning nor end, but the shape of the tale, the infinity of the myth. You are the rattle between rage and serenity, a labyrinth. You are the slipper that did not fit, the apple that was devoured to its core, the kiss that wasn't needed to break the spell. And when the clock strikes 12, you remain, unchanged, undaunted, the second we learned that we could save ourselves. The next one up is called Kintsukuroi, and this is from the Japanese ceramic aesthetic art form where ceramics that are broken are mended with precious metals like gold, silver, and platinum. Kintsukuroi. At the edge of morning, you hold a cup still warm, light catching its seams in ways hands forget to remember. And isn't it always like this, the way things break and find their edges again, glinting just so in the soft breath of dawn? The sky has done this too, each cloud patched with light in a language of fractures we don't question. Here, in this quiet pulse of being, we learn to gather the scattered pieces, with patience enough to follow every vein running towards something whole. Today, you look at the day as it looks at you, both of you remade, gold-lined in the places that time has touched but could not hold still. Between the days we carry and those that carry us, something holds. You were always becoming this, beautiful in the places that learned to soften where they gave. And then I think I'll have maybe one more. And this one is called, I finally gave it a title, To Desire and Memory. Somewhere between the oyster catcher's call and the shoreline it haunts, there is a silence that catches like a thread in the weave of the tide. The horizon, pale and distant, refuses to hold the sun. Solar flares wrap their glow, blushed spices and saffron salts. It slips, and I am left with shadows, the deliquescence of storm clouds in winter, where light is neither beginning nor end, but an echo of both, thin as the breath of moths at dusk. And in the space between the diaphanous wing and the flame, memory flickers. Fleeting bright, a quiet burn, saying, I'm always almost, but never quite quiet. All right. So what do you think, John? One last one?
Sure. Yeah, as many as you like. We still have some time.
Awesome. All right, last one. This one's called Written in Translation. The creek braids itself through stone and root, a liquid language flowing without pause. Each turn, a new sentence forgotten in its passage. Yet the water speaks not in fixed stanzas, but in movement. Under the canopy, leaves shift their gaze, holding light in countless patterns, then letting go. No single shadow tells the whole, nor the full truth. But in their dance, a story emerges and dissolves. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
I'm Abby Malafato.
And I'm
Coming to you from 50 Oliver in Northeaston, this is Easton News and
Don't have time to stay up and watch ECAT channels all day long, or miss your favorite show's time slot? Don't worry, ECAT has a YouTube channel that has all the programs that we show, so you don't have to miss any of the episodes or catch up on past episodes. Search Easton Cat TV, with TV being the only capital letters. The YouTube channel has playlists for every program, even some of the programs you can download a podcast version. We even stream live events through our channel. To stay up to date with ECAT programming, make sure you look up ECAT's YouTube channel. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get all the alerts for the new programming premiere, and change the alerts to all to make sure you receive all of them. Remember to search Easton Cat TV, with TV being the capital letters. So there's no reason to miss any of the ECAT programming. Enjoy.
Yeah. This is the life. Just relaxing by the beach. What could be better than this?
I've got an idea.
What?
I'd really like to find a forever home.
Forever home?
Yeah, like Jack Ryan talks about on Easton News. A forever home. All those animals at the APCSM, they get forever homes. Why not us?
Listen, man, I hate to tell you this.
Tell me what? Come on, tell me. Look, I can take it. Look at me. Come on, tell me. I can take it. Come on.
We're not real.
What are you talking about? Of course we're real. Look at us. We're sitting here on the beach, on vacation, being served raw meat, mind you. We're having a great time. How are we not real? No, thank you. I'm good. I've had enough. I've had enough. Thank you. What are you talking about? Of course we're real.
Look, it's not that we're not real. We're just not living, breathing animals. You don't even have a mouth, dude.
Well, oh yeah? Well, your eyes are just plastic.
Right back at you.
You've ruined my vacation. I can't believe you've done this. Ugh.
I mean, well, while we're at it, why do we need a vacation? It's not like you have a job.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. All right. You know what? I'm out of here.
Cubby, wait. I'm sorry. I didn't mean... Oh, well, you have to get it eventually.
If you'd like to get your hands on a cubby of your own, scan the QR code on your screen now.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, residents of Easton, friends and neighbors. This is Bill Ames, co-host with Priscilla Almquist Olson of the Film Connection. On ECAT now for over 20 years. We're very proud of that. And we like to interview guests from Easton who have been involved in the film business, actors, producers. We're very fortunate today to have a producer of a film.
Welcome to Service Matters, a weekly radio show that talks about the good things that are happening in local communities and beyond.
Since 1978, the Easton Food Pantry has been dedicated to providing food to our neighbors in times of need. As long as there's hungry people in our community, our doors are open, our hearts will be open to help.
We also like to talk about the good things that people do to make a difference, and in many cases, to make dreams real for folks out there in need.
Just to chat about, as you say, some of the good things in life. There's some of the good things, the great things, and the happy things.
And certainly watch us on ECAT, Easton Community Access Television.
Oh, I didn't see you there.
Sick of all the new shows and movies dominating pop culture? Well, have no fear, because Old Time Movie and Old Time TV are here, where we like to add our own flair.
There's a truck out front, and if we could just get the keys...
Man, are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? Those are flesh-eating zombies. They upended our car, okay? We're lucky to be alive, especially Joe. I had to pull him out of the trunk, for crying out loud.
It's been a long day.
Also, make sure to check out the Radiocast, our accompanying podcast where we talk about what we've watched.
There was a lot of moments of just Mac on the raft going down the river, just internal monologuing over and over and over.
We show the classics and nothing but the classics. Well, except for the weird ones. Check us out on all our channels as well as our YouTube.
Welcome to For the Love of Words. I'm Priscilla Almquist Olsen, your host, and today is April 3rd, 2024. And I'm in the beautiful Oaks Ames Memorial Hall in Northeastern Massachusetts. And I'm sitting here with Linda Marks, who is our featured songwriter, musician on the show For the Love of Words. And welcome, Linda.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here in this gorgeous hall and this gorgeous piano. It's really a true joy.
Yes, and she has the Ames's Steinway that she's going to play for us. So tell me a little bit about your background, where you grew up. I know you live in Waltham, just a few towns away from here.
Yeah. I grew up literally on the Brookline-Brighton line. There was a house 1.5 houses down from me that was cut in half in Brookline and Brighton. And there was a school right across the street from that house. But I was on the Brookline side, so I had to walk a distance when I couldn't go to the school that was right on my own street.
Oh, my.
So I grew up in this area, and I went to college at Yale in New Haven. And I didn't know that I would spend most of my life here. There was a time I worked in Europe because I have a master's degree from the Sloan School at MIT in organizational development. So I did some work there, and I wrote a book called Living with Vision, Reclaiming the Power of the Heart that came out on my 30th birthday, and that took me all over the place speaking and teaching. But eventually, as an introvert, I settled down in one place.
And you settled down with your love of music. And I understand that this is your 14th album, and you have a 15th album
in the works. Yeah, we're producing it now. Yeah.
So you are really a smarty pants, and I think that's what makes you such a wonderful musician, because anyone who can sing and play the piano at the same time, I really think it's really wonderful and marvelous, because you can focus. And you have focused with lots of songs that come directly from your heart. And one of the ones on this album, it says, Linda Marks, A Recipe for Hope. And that's a particularly important theme that most of us need, especially in this day and age, hope. And my favorite song on this album is Love Always Wins. And I guess it's been a favorite all through
in a lot of places around the world. That I'm not very good at tracking all the awards, but this week, Love Always Wins was a finalist in the Great American Song Contest, which was a huge honor. More than 1,800 musicians, songwriters submit songs, most of them multiple songs from 42 countries, and only 100 people made it to finals. So I'm very grateful. I co-wrote Love Always Wins with a Philadelphia singer-songwriter colleague of mine named Lisa Jeanette. So it was a collaboration, what gets called a co-write. And besides winning the Great American Song Contest this week, it also won the World Songwriting Awards. So I got 2 wonderful honors day in, day out, and it also charted at #1 on the UK Hot 100 within the last month. It's still on the UK Hot 100. It won an award with Closing International Music Magazine, as did the album. The album has also won awards. So I'm just really grateful when I write a song and it seems to resonate with people. So.
And so what do you attribute that to? Is it the many years that you've been writing or is it the themes that spring from your heart and soul? Where does the inspiration come from?
Well, the inspiration comes. I wrote a song when I was in grammar school called "My Music Is Me." So music is my language and my voice. I didn't talk till I was 3. But as a toddler, even we didn't have a piano at my house, but I would go try to find any piano I could. I'd toddle up and I'd start writing and playing. It was me. So the inspiration is just being touched by life, and whether it's people's stories, whether it's my own life, whether it's happening in the world, I'm touched by lots of things. And I write songs about 4-legged animals. My corgi Noah has a song. I unfortunately have written too many songs about too much gun violence. My focus, though, is trying to write songs at the heart of our times to uplift us, to bring healing and transformation.
Yeah. And so tell me a little bit about your childhood. Were there any experiences there that put you on the path that you're on today?
Well, what I can say is the experiences in my childhood kept me from focusing this hard my whole life. My first album came out when I was in my early 20s. I went to Yale as a music major with honors and distinction and co-founded Yale's third women's a cappella singing group when I was a 17-year-old freshman. It is still there today. However, my father did not feel very good about my passion for music or my passion for wanting a piano, and his mantra was music is a waste of a good mind. So I had to work and earn money to buy my own piano. At 11, I had enough to buy a guitar, so I started teaching myself guitar, and at 13, I'd earned enough doing whatever a little kid could to buy a piano, and I've never looked back. But my 15th studio album, which will be out January 1st, 2025, the title song is called The Silence of the Stars, and that is a story about the little girl's love affair with her piano.
Okay, so you're reaching deep into your roots as well. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Now you're going to be playing some songs today. Can you that you have written and co-written? Can you tell us a little bit about the themes of those songs?
Yeah, it's always interesting when I'm going to play. I meditate on which ones to choose. There's one called "No Time for Dreams." It's sort of in the more Latin jazz pocket, and we're working on the arrangement of that right now with saxophone, with bass, with guitar, with drums, with piano and voice. It's a really beautiful song that people love, but it takes place by some of the bodies of water where I take walks, where I see lots of waterfowl. I have a song called Motherless Daughters, Fatherless Sons, which is somewhat autobiographical, but it's also something that many people experience about what gets passed down through the generations. I have one of my newest songs is called Introvert, which speaks for itself, and people really like that song. And I am also going to play Love Always Wins.
Well, thank you. And you certainly aren't an introvert, and you should be very proud of your all your accomplishments.
Well, thank you.
And especially for the future ones, because you're not done yet.
No, I'm not. And I am an introvert, but I've worked very hard to become an ambivert. So I'm a circumstantial ambivert, but I'm very happy to go home and go in my little music studio with my cats. So
well, thank you so much for coming here to Northeastern, to the Oaks Ames Memorial Hall, Linda Marks, and sharing your beautiful music with all of us. And all the best and continued success.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and to play this beautiful Ames family piano. I am going to open with a song called No Time for Dreams. It's going to be on my 15th studio album. The 15th studio album is called The Silence of the Stars, and we're in the process of doing the recording right now, which is really fun. It's going to have saxophone, piano, vocal, bass, and guitar, and then once that's all there, I might put more on it, and percussion as well. And if you can imagine walking to a river or to a pond, and this is a really good time of year to do it because all the waterfowl have come back. I go on walks every day in search of beauty, and I find swans and geese. The ducks aren't there yet, but this is something that takes place at the river, the Charles River, and there's this beautiful bridge on Moody Street where on one side there's a waterfall, and the other side it's a pretty big expanse with lots of orange cones on it, but there are lots of waterfowl. So this is called No Time for Dreams. Green lily pads, white flowers adorning blue, on the bridge looking down in the mirror of you. Streams swirl and flow, sun white in my hair, cotton ball clouds, beauty beyond compare. No time for dreams in my day-to-day world. Kissed by the sun and embraced by the trees, my vision's alive. Here I am free, I am touched by the moon as I dance in the breeze. No time, no time, no time for dreams. Geese, ducks, and swans, hoping food can be found, sharing water and grass, resting on the dry ground. Beauty above, beauty below, waterfall whispering, wisdom it knows. No time for dreams when the world tugs and pulls. Here I'm kissed by the sun and embraced by the trees. The river's my lover, his flow sets me free. I am touched by the moon as I dance in the breeze. Dance, 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 dance in the breeze. Kissed by the sun and embraced by the trees. No time for dreams, no time for dreams, no time, no time, no time for dreams. Make time, some time, some time for dreams. Green lily pads, white flowers adorning blue, on the bridge looking down in the mirror of you. That's No Time for Dreams. This next song, which is also going to be on my 15th studio album, The Silence of the Stars, is called Motherless Daughters, Fatherless Sons. It's an autobiographical song, but it's also a song that's autobiographical for many of us, because one of the things that I found in my side hustle, my other career as a mind-body psychotherapist, is that
patterns get passed on down through the generations, and sometimes it's really surprising. And sometimes you try to work on something psychologically, but they still keep creeping in there because what our ancestors have experienced is built into our DNA. So this is Motherless Daughters, Fatherless Sons. I am your daughter, you are my mom. You were weary long before you birthed me into this world. Lost your mom when you were 12, carry the household by yourself, put yourself through college without help from anyone. And yet, motherless daughters, fatherless sons, I am your mother, you are my son. Emotional nurturance was not something he could offer you. His own challenge, mental health, sole focus was himself. Still cannot see the pain that he's passed on to you. And yet, motherless daughters, fatherless sons, haunted or uplifted by folks we never knew. Neglect to care shapes our DNA. Our ancestors live in us, in our face and in our eyes, and as ghosts who spook us deep inside. Motherless daughters, fatherless sons, carry the wounds of generations passed on to them through no fault of their own. Inside they feel alone. They do their best but struggle in a heartless world. And yet, motherless daughters, fatherless sons, haunted or uplifted by folks we never knew. Neglect to care shapes our DNA. Our ancestors live in us, in our face and in our eyes, and as ghosts who spook us deep inside. A motherless daughter with a fatherless son. It is humbling that the legacies passed on through us, though we heal and though we grow, we'll never really know how much our efforts will transform what lies ahead. And yet, we're still here. And love is real. Motherless daughters, fatherless sons. I'm actually now writing songs for my 16th studio album because it takes about a year to produce the songs on a studio album with the people I work with. I'm very grateful. I work with a multi-Grammy winning sound engineer from Philadelphia named Glenn Barrett at Morningstar Studios, who's fantastic. And Eric Balke from Hudson Harding Music is involved in the planning and the production, and then he helps the music get out to the folk DJ world, which I really appreciate. So this is going to probably be the title song of my 16th studio album called Introvert, and I will let the song speak for itself. Start again. A little girl dreamed of walking the red carpet, not for show, but to share what she loves. She'd sing her song, heads would nod, hearts would open. The band would play as angels danced up above. In our picture-perfect world, where optics rule the day, there isn't any room for what she has to say. She is warm, she is kind, she's a beacon, she shines, but still no one sees her. She's an introvert. You wouldn't know at first glance when you see her. Her sparkling eyes glow with beauty from her heart. She can lead so well when most just follow. You'd never guess something's tearing her apart. 'Cause the business can be hard, and money buys the stage. She pulls out all the stops, but invisible she remains. She is warm, she is kind, she's a beacon, she shines, but still no one sees her. She's an introvert. Music's her passion and music's her voice. Music's her secret, her fountain of joy. Years of work on herself have brought courage that's been fueled by the love in her heart. Her songs bring hope, peace, they bring us together. She feels joy and her tunes climb the charts. She is warm, she is kind, she's a beacon, she shines, but still no one sees her. She's an introvert. Hooray for introverts. She's an introvert. Just like me. People don't know that I'm an introvert when I'm out in public because I've learned to be an ambivert. And that's what introverts do. Actually, it's amazing how many singer-songwriters are introverts, but because of the passion and the love of the music, when we show up, all the joy and radiance comes out of us, and people would never know that we want to go home and hide out with the dog and the cats. But it's really lovely bringing music to the world, and it's well worth it. This is a song from my 14th studio album that just came out, A Recipe for Hope, that's been doing really well on multiple charts. It's on a whole bunch of charts right now. It's on some Roots Music Reports folk charts, 2 of them, the alternative music chart, folk chart, and the regular folk chart. And it's on the UK Hot 100 for Love Always Wins This Song, okay? It's on like 3 other charts too. I can't keep track of it all. I'm not so good at that. But I co-wrote it with my Philadelphia singer-songwriter friend and colleague, Lisa Jeanette. And it's a really, really important message for this time. So this is a song I envisioned writing for groups of people to sing together. And when I get to do that, it's really fun having everyone sing the chorus together. So you're welcome to sing the chorus as well. Even though you're not with me right now, you're welcome to sing it. Love Always Wins. And on the recording, Alice Hasten, who's a virtuosic violinist, plays a wonderful solo. So please listen to the recording. And in June 23rd, we're doing the album release show at the Burren in Somerville, and Alice is coming up from Memphis to play in the show. She's going to open it, and she'll have her beautiful violin on all the songs she played, including this one. Love heals the heart when it's broken and done, stronger than the wind, fire, earth, and sun. It moves our souls, it takes the blame, it holds our wounds, removes our shame. It rules the world and everyone within. You can never defeat love. Love always wins. It's deeper than hate. It can tear down walls. Love is the balm. It heals us all. For the broken and scared, when all is lost, love is a force that has no cost. It rules the world and everyone within. You can never defeat love. Love always wins. And this is where Alice plays violin, but I'm just going to do a little scatting. And you wonder, when will it end? Your faith is worn, no more left to spend. Your war-torn heart, weary to the bone, it beats with mine. You're not alone. It ends the war when it marches in. It's the driving force. It's your chosen kin. It won't give up when time wears thin. You can never defeat love. Love always wins. You can never defeat love. Love always wins. Love always wins.
Thank you for joining us on For the Love of Words. Until next time, be well.